Sound. Mute all. Okie dokie. Hi. So today we are going to talk about sleep. So I am going to share. I'll do that right away. And we can get going. Okay, so sleep is, of course, very important. And I think that we kind of we hear that a lot, that sleep is like number one, the most important thing. But I believe that that's a thing that we hear a lot, but that we really not necessarily take as seriously as we should, for natural reasons. I think most of us wish that there were more hours in the day, right? Because we are busy and there is a lot of things that we want to fit in. So sleep is kind of the simple one to neglect, so that we are able to kind of tick off more boxes. And then we don't consider the consequences of that, because big parts of those consequences are kind of long term, and we're living in the moment, right? So, and I think one part of it as well is that if we are used to sleeping less hours than what is optimal, we don't really know how it feels to sleep adequately, so to speak. So we don't really know what we're missing. We kind of know the theory of what we're missing, but we can't feel what we're missing, because we might never have been there, or since we were kids, and that wouldn't be the same anyways, in regards to, like, knowing the feeling. So I would assume that a lot of people can relate to that. And personally, and I've said this before on more than one call, that I've switched to being that typical, like, I don't need a lot of sleep. I can manage, and yeah, I managed well, with mood and energy. But the thing is, our body, even if we mentally are able to manage without adequate sleep, our body does not necessarily manage as well. And that's kind of where we don't notice that in the moment. That is something that's going to come down the line. So it's important to kind of know how it affects our body to be able to make a more educated decision, I guess, on how we prioritize sleep and have a good plan to actually make it happen as well. Because this is definitely one in one instance where just having a random goal of, like, I'm gonna sleep more, it's not gonna be enough. You really have to have a good plan to be able to change behavior if you're not already sleeping optimal or close to optimal. So 7 to 9 hours is, if I'm not mistaken, that's what we want from you this week and the following. And of course, the closer you can be to 9, the better. I would say 9 is rare, I would believe. But if we can get around 8 instead of 7, of course, that's going to be even better. And this is also something that I mentioned, I think it was last week's call. Said something about, taking going off of where you're at in the moment with your sleep. So basically, if you're already nailing 7 hours of sleep, and you're feeling like, heading into this week and like, "Oh, I'm already there, nailing it, I don't really need to, change anything," then I would challenge you to opt for 7.5 hours, 8 hours. And then same if you're at 8, could you get even more? Look at it as kind of just being curious about what can more sleep do for you, even if you feel like you're already getting enough or you're ticking that 7-hour box. If you're one that is sleeping 4.5, 5 hours per night, then I would say, opting for 7 might not be in the cards for you right now. Maybe it would be like working in 15-minute slots, so to speak, to increase your sleep. 30 minutes, an hour. It really depends on you and your personality and how your life looks. But just do something or make a change that is realistic for you. It needs to be achievable, yet, take you out of your comfort zone, but still achievable. That is very important with any habit that you want to improve on, or that you want to start with, that you're not, having in your life at all. And then of course sleep, it would be not one of those, but still. Okay, scrolling. Why quality sleep is a non-negotiable, why it should be. It's not, for many of us, it's not, but it should be. Poor sleep leads to more cravings, slower metabolism, uh, and that is connected to, could be connected to your insulin levels, your blood sugar levels. And this is definitely, if you are one that are having a lot of cravings, like what we are talking a lot about when there is cravings, is like, one thing is focusing on meals, right? And in getting in enough protein, getting enough fiber, things that already are goals in this challenge. But your sleep is also can be a huge contributor to why you are feeling cravings and want sweets and fats and everything that's not protein, basically, and fiber. So just by you focusing on your sleep, there can be a huge change in cravings, basically diminishing them. So if you are one that has that, and all the things you already have done through this challenge aren't helping enough, at least, then this could be the week where you are going to notice some changes. So just know that that is definitely applicable. Lower energy, that speaks for itself. A mental fog, increased stress, cortisol levels. So like a lot of these things kind of go hand in hand as well. Weakened immune system, slower recovery, and muscle repair. And this is something that I think many people maybe don't even know or think about too much. So if you are putting in all your efforts in the gym to build, or you wanna build muscle, or look more toned or whatnot, basically anything that has to do with muscle showing on your body, even if it's growing or containing what you already have, like sleep is going to be a huge part of aiding that journey. So if you want that, or you're working towards that, actively working towards that, but you're disregarding your sleep completely, you are missing more than one puzzle piece, I would say, in that whole journey. So again, definitely, if this has not been the case, that you have put in the effort, so to speak, to focus on your sleep, then do so, and see how that changes. Like if you're continuing to keep up with your consistency of training, working for that muscle, but now you add in the consistency of sleep, it's going to be interesting to just see how that what that does for your journey the next few months. Because of course, that's not going to be, where, oh, you're going to notice the change within a week. This is going to take time, of course. So, but again, curiosity, like what can it do for you? That is what I want you to be curious about that. So flip side, improved metabolic rate and then aids fat loss, steady energy all day long, better hormone balance, reduced stress, faster muscle recovery, better workout performance, sharper, clearer mind. So all of these things is kind of what you gain in focusing on more sleep. I think it's important also, and working with clients and just living my own life, working, being a mom, and all the things, social activities, and also maybe living with someone that has their own sleep cycle that might not be, optimal. It can be really difficult to prioritize sleep. And I think this is a combination of, like, sometimes it's not even doable. I have a kid that has a basketball game and I'm not going to be home until 10:30 at night. Okay, you can't do anything about that situation, perhaps. So what we want to focus on is the situations and the nights that you actually can control. So instead of going directly to what you can't control, like, what can you? So either if that is having conversations with your spouse, with your kids, with friends, whatnot, to make it more comfortable to change something that actually is changeable, but you might be scared of making the change because it includes kind of other people. Then definitely have those conversations and just that would be like stepping out of the comfort zone that way to make it happen. And just accept what you can't change, right? So I think in any scenario when we want to make a change, like, write it up. How does your week look? How many days of the week are you stuck at night, not being able to get to bed at a time that you would prefer, or that you might need to be able to get those hours? And then look at how many nights are you able to do that, so that you get a really clear picture of what is doable and what is not. Because I think it's very easy for us to just go directly to, this is impossible. There's no point in me even trying. But if you are able to get 2 days of the week where you are going to be able to make an improvement when it comes to your sleep, that's a win. And that is something that you can build on, maybe not necessarily right now in your life, depending on how it looks, but it's something that you can build on moving forward. So I think anything that you can hold on to that is going to be a win for you, and that is kind of buildable, I think is worth exploring, so to speak. And with that said, having a consistent sleep schedule is, of course, going to be optimal. But for many of us, that isn't doable. And then that's just something we have to accept and live with. But in any time we are able to be consistent, of course, that's what we're going to opt for. Personally, I have mentally, like, told myself, when I kind of changed my nighttime routine to go to bed earlier. For me, it was like, okay, I'm going to go to bed earlier Sunday through Thursday, and I'm going to allow Friday and Saturday to be, whatever it is. Because for me, that was what I needed to tell myself, or the story I needed to tell myself, for me to be able to even go in and change my behavior. Otherwise, I would have already from the beginning felt like I'm not even willing to do it, right? So just be honest with yourself, like in regards to, like, what is doable for you. And if that means that the weekend still needs to be a little loose, then allow it to be a little loose, and then focus on those 5 days of the week that is not the weekend. And to my surprise, I now, and have for quite some time, gone to bed earlier on the weekend as well. And that was not something that I was thinking of doing from the beginning, but sleep. What does it say? That's like how we say with the kids, sleep. I don't know the English word now, but when you sleep, you want to sleep more. Like, it's kind of like sleep is what you need to do to sleep more.
Sleep begets sleep.
Yeah. Okay, that's how you say it. Yeah. Exactly. And I feel like that kind of goes for us as well. Okay. Signs you might be sleep deprived. So taking more than 20 minutes to fall asleep, waking up multiple times per night, feeling groggy, irritable in the morning, increased hunger, and as mentioned earlier, especially for carbs and sugar, struggling to focus or feeling emotionally drained. So I wanted to kind of tackle the waking up multiple times per night, as I saw one in the group mentioned that that was an issue for her, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Because that is the case for many people that, and I would say, and this is my opinion, so this is not facts, but I would say waking up several times during the night, I would personally see as a bigger issue than using more time falling asleep, as long as I was able to, stay asleep, so to speak. So reasons for why one would potentially wake up multiple times per night. There are a few reasons that kind of aligns with all the things that we are working on in this challenge, with just lifestyle habits, basically, and the consistency of those lifestyle habits. So blood sugar dysregulation can be one, and is usually one thing, or it's a common reason for why one would wake up several times per night. And that can be connected to your um, just overall quality of foods. Uh, Basically, are you eating more processed foods than not? How is your protein intake? Is your protein intake nice and high? Are you focusing on protein for every meal? Are you eating fiber-rich foods? How's your meal timing? Are you eating late at night? That is not necessarily something we want to do. But in some scenarios, it could be that if you're eating your last meal very early, you might need a little snack to have a more regulated blood sugar level as well. So it's not like one scenario fits all, but in general, beyond that little snack at night or not, focusing on meals, eating high protein, starting your day off with high protein, eating vegetables, and also when you eat carbs, especially if you eat more processed carbs, if you eat them with protein uh, and fats, those carbs are going to process better than if you eat them by themselves, so to speak. So it's not going to be as big of a spike or a raise in blood sugar levels as if you eat them with protein, for example. The same would go for if you are spending time outdoors. Right before you eat, while you eat, or just after you eat, that's going to also help lower your blood sugar levels, so that it doesn't spike as much. So basically keeping it more stable. So all of those things is something that can help in not, or aiding in not waking up during the night. And of course, this can take a little time. Like this, it's not necessarily so that you have one day where that you're perfect and then you expect to be able to sleep through the night. Like this needs to be your lifestyle, right? This needs to be your routine. So I was thinking, like, just going through this, like I think sometimes we believe that we not necessarily eat as much processed foods as we might do. So that's also something that I would suggest that you be aware of. If you are one that wakes up a lot during the night, start being aware of how many processed items are you eating per day. Or every meal includes processed, and also not just that, but how many times during the day are you eating something processed without eating a whole food source with that processed food, if that makes sense. So just, creating that awareness, because it might be more than you might think. And that's definitely something that I would experiment if I were you, to diminish that and see if that helps, basically. Um, Cortisol dysregulation is another one that could be a reason. So that would be like just stress. And I think most of us are more stressed than we would prefer. So that is something that I think most of us need to work on. And that would be just also, living in the moment, breath work, setting boundaries are things that could help with that. Overtraining can be a reason for that needs to be kind of railed in, so to speak, and also balance more your recovery. So looking at that, could there be the case that you are overtraining or training very late at night? Is there any way that we could, shift that around? Not always possible, but like, just looking at all the scenarios that could be a contributor factor to why you are waking up is at least worth looking at. And then you have to kind of decide, what can I do something about and what can I not? And that's going to be up to you, basically. And then also liver detoxification is something that happens during the night. So if your liver is working with a lot of shit, basically, to say it frankly, like if there is a lot of processed food, if there is alcohol in your system several days of the week, that could also definitely just put your that system on kind of overload, and it could have you waking up, basically. Just general hormonal imbalances as well could definitely be something for us 40-plussers that are maybe in perimenopause. We could have low progesterone, cortisol levels will be high, melatonin potentially could be low. So there are definitely hormonal things that could impact us as well, and some of those might be more difficult to do something about than others. But again, the more we are aware of what potentially could be contributors, the better we are going to be able to decide, okay, what can I do something about, what can I not? And if we have like several of those things, like, yep, I'm ticking several boxes here, at least we want to focus on diminishing one that we can control. And for example, that could be the food, right? So in this scenario, electrolyte imbalances as well. So basically hydration could be another reason. So just like hearing myself talk now, like a lot of the things that we have been working on through this challenge and creating good habits around all of those, with hydration, food quality, movement, outdoor time, circadian rhythm. We haven't gotten there yet, but we're going to get there. All of those things are going to be important to have consistent habits in place that are going to support sleep, basically. So if you are able to keep up with these habits, really kind of nail them at some level and keep up with them, I would be surprised if your sleep does not improve. And here are also some other tips on how to optimize sleep then. And this is also right. Try adding 1 or 2 of these. So that's, again, like you have to make changes in a way that works for you, and don't compare yourself to anyone else. And this also goes for, even if we are communicating in the group, like, and people are sharing, like, don't compare. Just like take advice, use it as something positive, but don't use it to kind of to let yourself down and like, oh, I'm never going to be able to make that, because you live your life and that doesn't look like anyone else's. Even if we have a lot of general things that look the same, we are still individuals with our own lives and our own experiences. So, but for the most part, stick to a schedule. And I think that this really goes, even if I said earlier that, if you want to have the weekend look something different, if you're doing 5 days of the week out of 7, I would definitely say that, that's a schedule more than what it's not. So, so the more it can be a schedule and something consistent, the better, the more the win. And I also believe, just also talking from my own experience, that it's easier to continue doing something that you are doing on the regular, instead of if it's a random, I'll go by feel kind of thing. For most of us, that feel is just not going to be there very often. So go to bed and wake up at the same time every day. And this is something that I've noticed personally, that when I go to bed earlier, I wake up earlier. It's, it speaks to itself, but I think it's also easier when you have kind of a bedtime routine. You are more likely to also wake up at the same time. That kind of follows. So you don't really have to focus on both of those things. Just by focusing on getting to bed, you're kind of getting the waking up at the same time, with that, in most scenarios, at least I would think. Limit screen time. So this is definitely, and this is kind of where we also head into the circadian rhythm, and also blood sugar levels will be impacted by artificial blue light as well, not just food. So that is also something that is good to know, that if you are exposed to a lot of blue light at night, without blocking it, that in itself can raise your blood sugar levels. So good to know if you didn't know that already. So either dim lights, blue light blockers on, and try, preferably, at least last hour before bed, or like 30 minutes, whatever works for you, try to be off screens. That can definitely make a difference. And then we can take it a step further and say that, like, leave screens out of your bedroom, so that there are no radiation, so to speak. Maybe that's not the right word to use, but so that
Just
there's nothing
EMF
like,
exposure.
yes, that is kind of stressing your system without you looking at it. Because if it's there, or the closer it is, it's gonna have somewhat of an impact. So that would be more on the like itty gritty side. But yeah, if you're already not looking at your phone, but you have it in your room, maybe that next step would be to like leave it out of the room. For example, I have my phone in my bathroom, and I have my alarm on, and I can hear that. There's no problem for me hearing that alarm in the morning, even if it's, my walk-in closet and the bedroom away. No, the bathroom, I mean. So cool down your room. I think this is, probably also like a preference, but in general, that is said to be nice for quality sleep. Darkness, again, one of those things where that's going to be a preference, but is said to help. Caffeine, and of course, caffeine, that's not just coffee, right? It could be like if you're drinking a Diet Coke, or any soda, not any soda, but many sodas, if you're drinking them at every night, there might be caffeine in them. So it's not just think beyond coffee, right? When it comes to the caffeine. And this is also something where I think it's a little, different for all of us, but in general, yeah, stay away. um, Evening wind down routine. This is also something that I speak with clients a lot about, like, just be specific. Like, if you have a nighttime routine that is not optimal towards quality of sleep, just be very specific. Like, evening wind down routine, like, what is that? So here there are like reading, stretching, meditate, take a bath, like what works for you. And so write it down, make a plan, what times, what do you want to do? And also, I think important, do something, or choose to do something that you want, like that feels like, I want this. Like, this sounds cozy. I think that's important as well. Not just like, oh, I'm gonna meditate because I've heard that that's good, but but you hate meditating, or you can't, like, do something that you feel like, okay, this speaks to me, instead of doing something just because it's, that it's beneficial, but it doesn't speak to you at all. I think that can be also important in regards to like making it more realistic that you're going to be able to keep with it, because maybe then the meditating can be a part of your nighttime routine further down the line, but it doesn't need to be your number one go if that feels very far off of what you are comfortable doing, for example. Morning sunlight, so this again getting to like the circadian rhythm of things, but starting your day with sunlight or even cold, like now in the winter time and the sun isn't up yet, perhaps, then replacing that with cold can be a huge setter, so to speak, for your internal system in regards to setting yourself up for just aligning your nervous system with what time of day, where you're at, so to speak, and setting the bar, I would say. So you could also then build on getting evening light or afternoon light, but that morning light or that morning cold can make a wonders in kind of setting the system, and aiding throughout the day, basically. Magnesium glycinate, I think, like is something I would recommend everyone take before bed, even late afternoon, before bed, sometime there can really help with the quality of sleep, helps with muscle health, and no, someone wanted to say something. No.
Oh, I was just going to say, just like really great at supporting your nervous system. And we all have fried nervous systems. So magnesium
Yeah.
glycinate is very helpful for that. And most clients, myself included, that take it, that have issues like maybe waking up during the night, not having very restful sleep, see a really big improvement taking that. And I think the recommended dosage is it's either 400 or 500 milligrams per day. And I take 5. But
Thank you.
just something to
Yeah.
consider if that's something you haven't been taking. Also, it's going to help a lot with PMS symptoms too.
Mm. Mm. So our body, like when we are stressed, it kind of eats our magnesium. So and it's hard to get enough through food, basically. So and it's safe. It's safe to take. So I wouldn't even think
Yeah,
about it.
and like leafy greens, you can get it through food, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
depleted with stress, and we all have lots of stress. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to just only get it through food intake. You have to eat a lot of spinach.
Yeah. And then recovery.
Henrietta, someone
Yeah.
just asked
Oh,
about a
sorry.
brand for magnesium glycinate, like a brand that we recommend.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a number of brands that are really great, but I think the main thing our team has discussed over the years is getting whatever brand you get, make sure it is magnesium glycinate,
Yeah.
because a lot of times it'll be like calm or whatever it is, and the actual, when you look at the actual ingredient, it'll be like magnesium citrate or magnesium oxide, and that's different. Those can be beneficial, but not necessarily for sleep or nervous system support. So
Yeah.
making sure it says magnesium glycinate, and then something that's really important to me, but maybe not to everyone, is the serving size per pill. So the brand I use, it is, what brand is it? It says I'll send the
I
link.
think this is the one that I
But
lick. Or
I think it's
I know
called
that.
Deal. Deal Supplement is the brand name, but it's in one pill. It is 500 milligrams of magnesium glycinate and then 90 milligrams of magnesium as
Yeah.
magnesium glycinate. So basically, it's just all in one pill. A lot of brands you have to take like 3
Three. Mm.
pills to get the RDA for it, which is really annoying.
And
So
I buy
I will.
mine in the US because here in Norway you can't even get for 500. You have to buy, you have to have.
Right.
Yeah, the US is good on many things there.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
did you just link it? I think
yes, I
that's the
linked
same
the
one.
one.
I'm
I
I'm
think
linking
this
it
is
too.
the one that Casey recommended. I've been using this for a while.
Yeah.
Uh, yes. Okay. Fuel your body well. So just talking about recovery in general now, also like going over to that and beyond sleep. But I do believe that, and as you probably have heard before here and other places, is that sleep is definitely going to be a huge part of solving a a big part, like an umbrella problem, basically. So if you are one that kind of knows it, but you haven't gone there yet with sleep, let this week of the challenge be your where you're just really focusing in on that sleep. But beyond that, fuel your body well. So and this, of course, depends on where you're at on your journey. Also, are you now doing a pretty aggressive deficit? Then, of course, that's going to be an added stress for your body. That's going to require even more sleep. But basically, the more well fueled you are, both in regards to like working around your optimized maintenance calories, but also like the quality of the foods, is going to help in aiding your health, muscle gain, recovery in general, mood, all the things. So that is also something I think is just it's good to kind of note in regards to like, are you fueling your body well? Managing stress. Of course, that's going to be a big one as well. We all have stress, and there's different forms of stress, of course. So questions like, okay, how many forms of stress hit you on a daily basis, and what are you kind of carrying in your baggage, so to speak? And the more stress, the more need for recovery, and sleep would then be a big part of that. And it's not necessarily the most times that we kind of have to say, oh, you have to back off on your exercise. I think it's more common that we can do more, but there are scenarios where your activity level is excessive, and you need to maybe create more balance with rest, so that you are able to get as much out of the exercise that you are putting in. So that is just like, where are you at there? Would If you, for example, are one that exercises or moving your body a lot, then sleep is going to be, again, even more important. Supporting the nervous system, cold exposure, anything that has to do with like being in your body with the breath. Yoga would be one way to do that. Singing for vagus nerve stimulation. Anything that kind of just connects with your parasympathetic nervous system is, and having that happen on the regular, on and preferably on the daily, is going to help as well with just creating some homeostasis, basically. So protecting your energy, set boundaries. And I think setting boundaries is difficult, and in a world that we live in today that are requiring so much from us, and we are kind of, I don't think even we are taught to set boundaries, most of us. So that is something we kind of have to figure out on our own as adults. And it's important. And I think setting boundaries can be a huge tick in creating a better balance, basically. So this is again a scenario where if you have no boundaries towards, giving, then that's also more likely going to require even more sleep, because we kind of have to balance it out. Nourishing relationships that, those that give back and doesn't take too much. So like, just all of the things mentioned here is just like, is like your whole life, right? Like, everything is connected, intertwined. And no, if you're feeling like this list that I just mentioned, and you're like, oh, I need to do that, I need to, like, oh, I'm not good at that, and you're just kind of ticking them off, then sleep would be even more needed, right? So just, I think this week is a very good week to assess where you're at, and then make a plan where sleep is going to be in focus. and then make a plan that is doable for you. Like, and that kind of sparks a little, a belief that you can do it, basically, because again, I think that's really important. Um,
Yeah, and
and
I would
let's,
say start like choose maybe 2 or 3 things on that list that was talked
yeah.
about, like what's most important for you, and then do those, start with those.
Mm. And definitely share in the group, ask if you have questions, but also do not compare yourself to anyone else. Use the sharing as something positive and not a way to like, oh, I can't do that, so there's no point for me. Because we all can do something, even if that might be limited. And we get it, like it sometimes is just not doable, but there's always something that is doable at some point in time. And that's kind of what we're going to hold on to for this week and moving forward as well. So yeah, I think that was
Thank you.
talking no stop for quite some time now. So
We're doing a giveaway today for the group, so we'll give you guys more information on that in the group for those that are doing the challenge. Thank you.
have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.